I'm Dean Zelinsky, and this is the podcast. Well, Parker, we're back at it.
Back at it, another Thursday night.
Another podcast.
I don't even know what we're on right now.
7 or 8.
They're all blending together.
Well, we do them in delay. I mean, we do them and then we put them out a week or two later, so it's hard to know. We can't keep track, but that's good.
Well, the last one we did was pretty exciting, pretty fun.
Jeff Mallard,
Yes.
Johnny Winter's guitar tech.
Yeah.
What an amazing dude.
Yeah, funniest guy of all time. He was like the Mitch Hedberg of guitar techs. Like everything he said was just exciting and funny and super cool, dude.
He's one of those guys, when you meet him the first time, he's just so genuine, you know you're going to be like friends for life. You know?
I don't think he took his hat or sunglasses off, and he also had a beer in hand the whole time. And then when we saw him at the Mr. Big show, it's the same situation.
I think he was at my house for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, yeah.
Hat,
and
sunglasses, beer.
I don't know if he ever, it was, yeah. But I'll tell you something. Okay, so we did this on a Monday, right? Was at work. That was the day I lasered all day. Okay. And I come home and I smell alcohol, like, and Susie and Jeff are in the kitchen, and I'm like, you know, Susie can drink and party. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, she got Jeff so loaded, he's not going to be able to do a podcast. And I'm like literally nervous, and I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
But because like
now we had a riot.
Yeah, but there's a weird thing in my house up on the second floor at the top landing. Every smell of cooking, it all, you know, goes up there. So maybe it was a little. But anyways, I just thought, oh, shit.
Yeah.
But no, he was not hammered. He was.
So if you haven't seen it, you got to watch. Which it's by the time this one comes out, the Jeff one will be out. But we talked a lot about Johnny Winter and all the other bands he's worked for. So that was cool.
But the stories.
Yeah.
I look and there's a little plume of smoke coming out the back of the amp, and I was like looking at it thinking, is that like they got like fog here or like something? Like what the fuck is that? And so the next thing I know, it's getting a little bit bigger, and there's video of this on YouTube. So you kind of see me run up to the back of it, and the tape is on fire. It's you can see the embers around like the cone, and stuff. It's starting to smoke, and I don't really know what to do. It's hot, and I try and blow it out, which is ridiculous. But and I go, oh fuck, this ain't gonna work. So you see me actually run off stage to get what, I have no idea. And by the time I turn around, the thing's literally, it's an inferno going on. So Johnny doesn't know what's happening. I run back, and the amp's still working, but then
it was a little hotter.
It's just running a little hot.
And Johnny Winter was, you can see, even Tony, our engineer, said,
Hello.
Tony's, how old are you? Like 30?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm 34.
Oh, 34. Tony, these guys didn't grow up with Johnny Winter, but Tony had to do a lot of research to finish out we got Tony, he's our engineer. Did I just say that?
Yeah, we got him a mic now.
Okay, we got him a mic.
They gave me a mic.
We're so legit. But anyhow, so he had to do a lot of research, and he just found stuff that was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And this is stuff I knew. Johnny Winter was a rock star, and I knew he belonged in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before Run DMC.
Yeah, we'll put a close-up of your shirt later.
And Jeff, he was a great guy to have at the house. And then we went to the show.
We saw Mr. Big. Now, for me, it's like you're all pumped that he's Johnny Winter's tech.
Right.
For me, it's Paul Gilbert and Billy Sheehan. Like, I was losing my goddamn mind. I think I had a smile from like ear to ear just watching. I used to fall asleep with my old first video iPod, and I would download all of Paul Gilbert's like hour-long instructional videos, and I thought that if I fell asleep listening to them, so I'm like 15, and I'd be going to school, at 7 in the morning, wiped. Why didn't you sleep? Well, you can't really sleep when you have guitar in your ear on loop for 7 hours, but yeah, it was cool to see Paul Gilbert shred, and to see Jeff up there doing his thing.
By the way, Parker is an amazing guitar player. I mean, he can shred like no other. So, obviously it might have paid off all that. All that listening,
osmosis,
right? Subliminal guitar lessons.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, Mr. Big, I had never seen them,
Me neither.
and they smoked.
Yeah. The house was full. They've been selling out a lot of these shows, and just every song is distinct. Playing's top notch.
Right.
Very, very, seasoned band. They know what they're doing.
Right. The cool thing is when they play when bands like this play a cover tune, they play it so much cooler than even the original guys.
The Who cover was Bob O'Reilly was sick.
Because the level of
finesse,
the level of talent
Yeah.
is actually better than the Who or whatever.
Yeah.
And the moment for me of all
I know your favorite part.
Yeah, they all switched places.
Yeah.
Got guitar players playing drum.
Billy Sheehan was singing. Paul Gilbert on drums. He's a pretty good drummer.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a drummer.
Okay.
But that was a moment for me to just watch them all change up instruments,
But keep the entertainment
and
up.
the music got even better.
Yeah.
in my mind. So, anyways, that's cool. And thank you, Jeff, for those incredible free tickets.
We got to get him back.
I got to say one more thing. Mm-hmm. Speaking of free tickets, I've gotten tickets free pretty much all my life. Okay.
The perks of being a famous guitar builder.
Yeah, and I don't go to many shows that I have to pay for just because it doesn't come up. But years ago, I wanted to go to Crossroads, and I called my friend Leslie West.
Yep.
Crossroads, Chicago. But you have to pay because it's a charity, so you wouldn't even ask for free. And I paid a lot of money for those tickets. And it was kind of a shitty experience for me because I had seen Clapton when he was young. And everyone always said, like, what's the big deal about Clapton? And I kind of said, what's the big deal about Clapton? But he was so, what's the word I'm looking for?
I'm not sure.
Famous.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just a legend of a guitar player way back then. And I saw him live, and I got it, okay? He played good on the albums, but live, he just was amazing.
So that was the moment where you were like, all right.
Right. No, he was legit.
Okay.
And I met him. I mean, I had lunch with him once. But that's another story. We're going to talk about the groupies that used to work for me and how I got to a lot of rock stars. And they got me lunch with Eric Clapton and hung out with Jimmy Page and all that. So we'll talk about that. So now I'm going to Crossroads, and I'm like going to see Eric Clapton play. And it's like probably going to be the last time I'm going to see Eric Clapton play. And I'm sitting there, and Derek Trucks is on stage all day. Every band that's coming up, Derek Trucks is playing. Derek Trucks is playing. And Clapton's coming up. And I'm like, cool. Clapton gets on stage, and you never guess who's still on stage. Derek Trucks.
Oh, wow.
So things are going on. Steve Winwood was playing, which kind of sucked because they were doing more Winwood stuff than Cream or, Clapton's stuff. I shouldn't say stuff, songs. So anyways, Clapton's playing Clapton songs.
Okay.
And it comes time for the solos.
Yeah, and who's playing them?
Derek Trucks.
Yeah, all right.
I was pissed.
I understand.
And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because Jeff had a story. Johnny Winter played that show. And Jeff had a story about Johnny on the golf cart heading back to the camper, and he runs into Eric Clapton.
Oh, yeah.
And he told me this story, and we just missed it on the podcast.
Right.
We got to bring them back, even if it's by Zoom or whatever, to tell
Just to
this story.
finish it, yeah.
Because the Crossroads thing was big,
Right.
and we totally missed the Crossroads.
So, speaking of Johnny Winter,
Yeah.
who was albino
Yes.
and poor of vision, I think we got another one of those.
Legally blind.
Yeah. Is Blue legally blind?
Blue's legally blind.
Dean's very rare white Doberman. The vision is leaving. So,
Blue went blind. And really kind of came on sudden.
so if you're albino, don't hang out with Dean or you'll go blind.
No, she's 10 years old, and she went blind. Well, we kind of noticed she was having trouble going downstairs, and we thought it was more arthritis
Yeah.
and things like that. But it turned out
It's vision.
it was vision. And she's an albino, and she always had problems in the sun. Like, she wouldn't run in the sun, and she could run into stuff. But she was good. I mean, but she went blind. Anyways, this dog, Blue, I've had this. She's my third Doberman. I've got like 2 or 3 dogs right now. I got some other dogs. We got Mo. And life, George Carlin said life is just a series of dogs.
Okay.
And it's true. Anyways, I shouldn't say this but Blue is just like my most amazing dog. We rescued her. I'm literally looking for a Doberman. We were Doberman free for a few years, and I'm like, we got to get a Doberman. We signed up for Doberman Rescue. They come in and they got to make sure you're good enough to get a rescue and all this. Check out the house. And we're going to this big Doberman event that day. And I get this idea, maybe we should look on... By the way, the Doberman event was like all the foster dogs were going to be in one place. We're going to get a Doberman. But I go and look on... I'm like, I wonder if they got dogs on Craigslist, because they never used to...
Yeah.
And I look on Craigslist and I type in Doberman. One ad comes up and it's for an albino Doberman.
Yeah.
Someone was rehoming it. And this, I just text the lady and I'm like, do you still have the dog? She goes, yeah, but somebody's coming to look at it. And I'm like, when? They said Tuesday. This was on a Sunday. And I'm like, we're coming today. And we got Blue.
There you go.
And she was 7 months old. So she lived in a house. Is it okay if I tell a dog story?
We're going into it now.
Okay. So she was in a house with another Doberman. And that other Doberman had the run of the house. And Blue was in a crate,
Okay.
a lot. And they were giving up the dog, I think, because they were getting a divorce. And she had to go. Life wasn't really good for the dog. And I think the lady at least did the right thing and knew. We take Blue home. And I had to pull her out of the house. She was like really scared, spooked. She came to our house, got a big backyard, got a lot. Anyways, Blue never stopped kissing me from the day. I mean, she just would come up and lick my face. I think I saved her from that terrible crate life.
Yeah.
Literally, she'll come up and lick my face, go away for 10 minutes, come back and
again.
just come back and
At the shop.
yeah, she comes to the shop.
She's the shop dog.
So she's been an incredible dog, and she's still an incredible dog, but she's lost her sight. And now, you know how people have seeing eye dogs? Mm-hmm. Well, Blue has a seeing eye human.
Yeah.
2 of them, and it's Susie and I.
Yeah.
And now we can take her to the dog park, and it's our dog park is like not a dog park, it's like the woods, you know. And it's partially fenced and partially not fenced, and there's a big lake. And you have to go upstairs and stuff, and she's literally really smart. Like, she gets it, and she'll walk to the stairs, and you'll say, step. She'll just stop, and you'll say, step, and she walks, and she gets step, and she's really smart.
Yeah.
So, and the reason this is pertinent is because of Johnny, and Johnny basically, they were both albino.
Yeah, but didn't you get Blue like right around?
Yes, I got Blue in 2014, and that was the year Johnny died. And
Yeah.
I got Blue, and we were going to change her name. She's, because we didn't, and we were literally going to call her Johnny.
Okay.
We just couldn't settle on anything, so our name is Blue. We stuck with Blue. And I meant to send Johnny a picture and say I got an albino Doberman.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, Johnny died.
Yeah.
So we never got to see
So you got extra Johnny memories just baked into the dog. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, how rare is it? She's been to 3 vets. They've never seen a white Doberman. They're rare.
It's cool.
And one just shows up. My life
On Craigslist.
on Craigslist. And anyways, so I love my dog. Lou.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was eventful.
Okay.
But what else? I mean, we've been busy as hell in the shop.
I know.
Like, people probably don't know this, but we shoot these on the weekday. Like, we've been at the shop all day. We come over here. We have a slice of bread and a glass of whiskey. And we're right from it. So
Yeah, and it's a zoo over there.
it is a zoo.
Every
There's
day-
so
it's
many
just like-
custom guitars.
Yeah, and it would like I got to cover a lot of ground.
Yeah. Dean is on the floor every day. Like, you're not the boss. You're also like, you're the head honcho. You're working. You have your own. I mean, you're the head laser tech. You do all the engraving.
And I never did this in all my guitar career. I was never tied to the shop.
Yeah.
And it was always just on an as-needed basis. I would go back and deal with problems, or if somebody didn't show up, I could paint guitars. And, I used to paint all the guitars that go to the NAMM show. And in this company, same thing. Until COVID, I wasn't in the shop. But now, guitar sales are easy. So there's no marketing to do.
Okay.
I shouldn't say, you're doing marketing. But I'm saying they're coming easier where the marketing is not a huge effort. So we're just basically.
Well, we got a lot of exclusive shit too, which helps. But.
Right. But we're basically, our time is consumed with building guitars. Marketing's a sideshow.
Yeah. All right. So back to where we left off in our, stories here. We were talking about your NAMM show. We went into that, and then you made some sales. You headed back. Now you really got to start building this thing up.
Yeah, I think we left off with the drive home.
Getting arrested.
And
Yeah.
then the rest of the trip was a little less eventful.
Yeah.
But I got home and I'm like, okay, now it's really,
So you get home.
it's go time.
And then what's going on?
We've got to build guitars. I've got $45,000 worth of orders.
Yeah.
And the first, up to the NAMM show, was only about getting to the NAMM show.
You didn't think that much farther ahead?
We're building guitars to get to the NAMM show.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things in place to build 9 guitars. There's nothing in place, or there's stuff in place, but not enough in place to build $45,000 worth of 100. I don't know what the math is, but yeah.
So did you have employees or what's going on?
Yeah, I had a handful of employees, but you got to remember, I got to keep this lean because I didn't talk about it, but I'm starting to run out of money.
Okay.
And I got some bad advice from some professionals.
So what do you do?
Well, now I'm back and I have to ramp up production. And we talked about, like I said before, it was just about building 9 guitars. Now we have to be in production. We have to buy a lot of goods, a lot of raw materials, lumber, the whole 9 yards. Okay, and I'm not broke, but I see the writing on the wall. And I had we had a guy this guy Yusuf. I think I talked about the guy from Pakistan who had the degree in what they're going to cut the bodies and all this stuff. By the way, I didn't hire anybody. I mean, he had some skills, but I never hired a guitar maker.
What are you looking for when you hire people?
I don't even know if they had guitar makers. I don't think there were guitar makers back then. I mean, they're guys. I looked for people that needed a job and had some propensity for whatever they were doing. I mean, I hired a Jamaican guy who made beds. Hand. He did woodworking. Okay, he made beds in Jamaica.
Okay.
When I said make beds, I don't mean he put the blanket on. I mean he literally.
Oh yeah.
He made the boards.
Housekeeping. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, he had woodworking, some woodworking skills. I don't think he'd seen machinery like we had.
Yeah.
So I hired him. He had a friend who needed a job.
Yeah.
I taught him how to buff.
Guys with drive.
Right. And we talked about this, but if you remember, we're sitting there buffing the NAMM guitars on a drill that I got from my father when, out of S&H green stamps. I got for my father, but he died, and that was my big inheritance.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. So I got the gun. that was in the last episode.
Yeah, the blank gun.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we're buffing just for the NAMM show. Now we really have to buff guitars. Mm-hmm. So I bought this big buffing jack. I have a picture of it. We'll put it up. Big wheels, like you see in like Gibson and all this stuff. We finally had to learn how to do that. And I got a guy and I trained him how to buff. And that's really the period I talked about when we were like, things were warping and things weren't going so well. It was really during this time.
Okay.
That we were trying to knock out all those guitars, and we're running into a lot of things that you would know if you had been in manufacturing for all your life. But this is
you're
all
ironing out the kinks.
This is all new to me. Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of hurdles. But the other part of the story is, I got these guys, we got overhead, we got everything going on. My rent was like $450 in those days, so it wasn't stupid money, but probably adjusted for inflation, it might be like $1 million today. I don't know.
You're not that high.
So I knew I was running thin on money, and my accountant, not the guy who was doing the auditing, the kid, but his dad, was like, well, if you get orders, you just take them to the bank and you'll get money. And it seemed a little weird to me, but, if you got purchase orders, you just take it to the bank and they'll lend you money.
Okay.
So I get home. I actually had a banker, and he, car loans and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I go see him, and I'm like, can you lend me some money? And of course, they ask for projections.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm doing projections and all this stuff, and I come to find out pretty damn quick that you don't have a track record of making money or building guitars or getting a return, being profitable. They're not going to give you money. The purchase orders are meaningless to a bank at that stage.
Yeah.
If you've been in business 5 or 10 years and you get a bunch of purchase orders and you need to buy some inventory,
yeah, but when you're
no problem.
starting from scratch.
But these guys don't tell me that.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm kind of relying on them like, okay, I get the purchase orders, I'm going to be golden. And I wasn't. So then I remember that the accountant brought in his guys. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll get you some money. And I don't know how I remember this name, but he goes, Dan Lapatina. He's a banker, and he sets up a meeting. Mm-hmm. So Dan Lapatina comes to my, factory. He sees everything going on. And we're having a meeting, and I have to put on the whole dog and pony show. The accountant says one thing. He says, the banker says, why is the show on the West Coast, the NAMM show? And he goes, well, Dan, trends kind of move like the sun. They start in the West and they move to the East.
You're all looking at each other, what?
I think, doesn't the sun set in the West? And that's the only thing probably that's why I remember the name, because it was the stupidest comment. I'm paying this accountant to... Anyways,
yeah.
Dan Lapatina didn't lend me money.
Okay.
So the next thing is this guy had a client who was very wealthy. And he's going to come in and bring in a bunch of cash. But I had to hire, and this was a noble thing because he had a handicapped brother who was like in his 50s or 60s. And I had to hire the handicapped brother.
Okay.
And the brother was kind of together. He wasn't really, he was definitely mentally challenged. But
yeah.
I don't want to get canceled.
What was he doing?
Okay, so they said, can you try him out for a day? And I'm like, yeah, bring him over. So I had him in the office, and he's got to put mount rings on humbuckers.
Yeah.
And it's real simple, but, there's springs involved.
Uh-huh.
I come back like a half hour later, there's springs all over the office. And on one humbucker, they're just shooting out. Anyways, that didn't work out. But, I agreed because the guy had a lot of money. He just wanted his brother to feel,
sure,
important. But there was a lot of stipulations, and they, with this contract, and I just saw it as like, I'm going to get ripped off. Mm-hmm. This is not going to work. And that resulted in my lawyer really did, this lawyer I hired really did some really stupid, underhanded shit trying to close the deal.
Okay.
And I didn't pay the lawyer. The lawyer sued me.
Who won?
We had to settle.
Okay.
But I had to hire a lawyer to fight the lawyer, which is not...
A little messy.
Lawyers don't like to fight lawyers, but I actually got a lawyer to fight the lawyer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, money was not coming, and I just had to bootstrap, because we have another NAMM show coming up.
Yeah, on the East Coast. Well,
Not exactly.
Is that Atlanta?
Atlanta.
Okay.
So the NAMM show was always in Chicago, like from the beginning of time. June NAMM, okay. We talked about this year they had the West Coast NAMM, and that was the beginning of the West Coast NAMM shows. Okay.
Right, which is now what it is.
Which eventually took over the NAMM. The West Coast became the NAMM show.
Yeah.
Okay. There was always the West show. The West Coast show got big. The summer show moved to Nashville. Nashville got really small. And anyways, and now we're down to one show, and it's West Coast.
So now we're in Atlanta for some reason.
But they had these odd years out. So, of course, I'm new in business. I could use a hometown show, so I don't have to put everyone on an airplane and do all this stuff.
And unfortunately,
It's in Atlanta.
yeah.
But I will tell you, with the unions in Chicago, it was almost, I found out later, it was actually easier to do a show out of town because Chicago was very costly and very tough to deal with.
Okay.
So now we're building guitars and we're manufacturing, but as I said in the last thing, now we're going to the June show with real production guitars that were really, we finally got our stuff together.
Yeah.
And we really can make guitars and mass produce them. But at this juncture, I've only got 13 guitars built.
Okay.
The show's in June, and we haven't delivered a guitar to a dealer.
Yeah.
So without getting into a bunch of little details, we're going to the show. Zan's going. My friend Keith is going. Mm-hmm. My brother's coming. My brother's, now I'm 20 because I had my birthday February 20th.
Happy birthday, Dean.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Dean.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Anyways, so I had my birthday. So I'm 20, and we're going to the second NAMM show in June, and I'm going to see a lot more dealers and whatnot. So we might as well just talk about that show?
Yeah.
Okay. So...
Did you have intentions? You're rolling in just to see what happens, or what?
Well, yeah, we're going to the NAMM show. I know now I'm feeling better because I know I can produce, even though I have a lot of guitars to produce. But you got to keep going and keep selling and all this stuff. I knew I was going to get, or I thought I was going to get some heat because dealers are going to come by and nobody's gotten a guitar yet. But I'm Dean and I do what Dean does. I just keep going.
Yeah.
Tenacity. Learn that word, public. If you ever want to be an entrepreneur, you better not only learn it, but live it. Okay, so I'm going to the NAMM show, and my friend Keith is coming along, I guess. You just hung. My brother, who's 6 years younger than me, I'm 20 now, so he's like 14.
Uncle Glenn?
Uncle Glenn. he's coming with, which is kind of integral in the story. And semi-integral, but integral. My brother, he's you couldn't ask for a better brother. But now we're there. Zan's going down. I didn't need Gary and Joan and all that stuff. We've been shown the ropes.
Yeah.
So we set up the booth. We do our thing. We're all, new catalogs, I'm pretty sure, and stuff. But now we got like 12, 13 guitars there, and they're really pretty, and they're really Dean guitars, and they're good.
Yeah.
Okay. So show opens. We're working the show. Dealers are coming by, and of course, dealers from the first show are coming and saying, hey, I ordered guitars. What's going on? Just was honest with them. Listen, we had a lot of manufacturing problems. We're good now. These guitars are production guitars, and we're going to roll. And, we're good. And every one of them just said, we want the guitars, and they stuck with us.
Okay.
So I think people were looking for my guitars.
Yeah.
They liked the concept, which was, we talked about.
Premium features, shapes,
what's
looks.
that?
I said premium features, looks, shapes,
They wanted shaped guitars with flame maple tops, binding on them,
yeah.
vintage sunburst finishes that were like the hidden scene in a long time.
Yeah.
Tobacco finishes.
The DiMarzios,
ebony
yeah.
boards, the cool V-head.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, people bought it, but took a long time. We spoke about this too.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks like out of the box, the V was just, everybody wanted. A lot of resistance.
It's iconic. It took,
Right. Now it's
getting
iconic.
used to. Yeah.
Right. It's like everything else that was ever iconic probably had its moment. DiMarzio pickups, once again, and I don't know how clear I made this, but DiMarzio was becoming a thing, okay? And everybody, I know we talked about it, but everybody wanted DiMarzios in their guitars.
Yeah, you were installing them, right?
Yeah, in the repair
Gibsons
days.
and stuff, yeah.
And put SGs, whatever it was, people wanted DiMarzios. And my concept, besides the concept, I knew the basic steps to sell a guitar. Step number one is you walk in a store, a guitar store, there's a sea of guitars on the wall, especially nowadays. So what's going to make somebody look at your guitar?
Yeah, it's got to look different.
Yeah, it's got to look something. And I had that. I had V's, that had flame maple tops and things like nobody
Gorgeous
seen
finishes.
before. Yeah,
Plus,
right.
again, the headstock.
Right. So you got this guitar that's going to attract a guitar player to your guitar in this wall, the sea of guitars that are on a wall, right? Then the next thing they'll do, they're going to pick it up. If it feels good, they're going to want to plug it in.
Right.
If it's a pig, it's going to go back on the
What's
wall.
your favorite derogatory guitar term? Pigs.
Right. Well, they're all fat. I don't make fat guitars. Well, actually, I do. The Stradivarius might be the fattest solid body.
Yeah.
But anyways, if it's but it's got a skinny neck.
Yes.
A sexy neck. So if it's a pig, it's going back on the wall. If it's heavy, if it's got a fat neck, whatever. I mean, some people like fat necks, but if the neck's not a good feel, it's going to go back on the wall. We had a neck like nobody's ever felt before, and guitars were only
Yeah.
inch
But
and
then
a half.
importantly, once they're hooked on it, they're going to plug it in.
So then they're going to plug it in.
You get the
gotta-
hottest pickups on
It's
the
got to
market.
sound better.
Yeah.
My guitars with the DiMarzio pickups and all the things I put into them. I mean, anyone will tell you those original Dean guitars, they sounded amazing. Which, by the way, I'm going to talk a little bit about further in this show.
Yeah.
But they played amazing. They sounded amazing. They were just off the wall, just better guitars.
Right.
Then it really comes down to money.
Okay.
If the guy's got the money, he goes to the cash register. If he doesn't, he goes back on the. But those three elements, that's what I live by today. You need an attractive guitar. It's got to feel
good and
feel
then sound
great in your
good, yeah.
hands, and then it's got to back it up with the tone. And by the way, on the social media, every day, if it plays as good as it looks,
Yeah.
like fuck you. I'm Dean Zelinsky. I've been doing this for 40-something years, and you're literally saying if it plays or sounds as good as it looks.
Yeah.
We're selling guitars because they play and sound
Yeah.
better than they look.
Yes.
We only put the beauty in it.
Form follows function, and look at how good our form is. Like, seriously.
Right. Well, it's like a good-looking girl.
Yeah?
It doesn't fall down. Am I going to get canceled?
No.
Okay, good.
You're in an age bracket where I don't think you can get canceled, so.
By the way,
I don't think you can get canceled, but I don't think it would be a bad idea for us to start a Patreon for all of the material we can't post on YouTube.
okay.
It's not a bad idea.
Well, by the way, we talked about my kids in a podcast that never got released.
Right?
Got scrapped.
Oh, wait, we never dropped that.
And I don't think we're gonna.
Guess we're going to never talk about your kids.
Okay. But you mentioned, because my daughter sent me a text and she used to rattle off my credentials.
Yeah, I was speaking of three things, the three things of guitar selling. I think your daughter was like, when you listed all your accolades, I think there were three big things that you missed.
Okay. And then Parker did a thing and talked about my...
And it would be Dean's three children,
right,
who are all highly successful and take after their father. So.
Okay. And my daughter reached out and said, hey, Dad, I think you're...
Hey, dickhead, yeah.
yeah. So, but my daughters were really... I think my kids were placing bets how soon it would be canceled. So okay. We got to get back to business here.
Right.
Okay.
So you're rocking and rolling.
Yeah, we're now at the second NAMM show. We're set up. We're great. Dealers are coming by in droves and checking out the guitars, and we're booking more orders, selling, taking on more dealers. Yeah. So things are getting good.
In addition to dealers, NAMM, there's a lot of artists and stuff. How many, at that time, relevant rock stars or soon to be iconic rock stars are you dealing with at this point as a young company?
So you were at the NAMM show.
Yeah.
How many booths did you see with guitars in them?
Like 50.
Okay. So that's a downsized NAMM show. I'm going to tell you, in the heyday, you could see well over 100 booths with guitars in them.
100 distinct guitar companies.
Yeah, you take the Chinese, factories.
And new companies and startups. You're new at that point.
So, we didn't have any rock stars. It wasn't, I don't even know that it was on my radar. But funny you should ask this because I'm at the booth.
Yeah.
And Kerry Livgren of Kansas comes by.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, the setup.
Is he just kind of poking around or what's up?
Okay. I have to tell you that, number one, Kansas is totally on my radar. Mm-hmm. Because my younger brother, who's 6 years younger, Glenn, plays violin.
Yes.
Okay. And he's totally into rock. Mm-hmm. And he plays rock violin.
Yeah.
At that point, there were maybe two rock violinists.
Yeah.
And the main one was Kansas.
Sure.
Okay. So I had been into Kansas, and they've been for years. Okay. We kind of talked about that story where they had albums out, and they weren't really... Mm-hmm. Okay, but now Wayward Son had hit their big first hit, and these guys are platinum artists.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're hugely on my radar, and Kerry Livgren's at the NAMM show.
Yeah, like just walking by.
So one of my friends, it might have been Keith, I don't know who, but like, hey, Kerry, come, and lured him into the booth.
Yeah.
And of course, who does he want to talk to? Me.
To the boss man.
Right. So Kerry and I have... I've shown him the guitars, and he's sitting down and he's playing the guitars. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty cool.
Do you remember what model he was playing?
Well, he checked them all out.
Yeah.
We had everything, VZs and MLs.
Yeah.
They all lived in Atlanta at this point, and they're relatively new. Well, I guess they're not new, but, they had this big hit. But they're all living in Atlanta because they all married flight attendants that were based, I think, Delta Airlines, and they were based out of Atlanta.
Okay.
I think there was a show and they played or something. Somehow we ended up at a Kansas show. But it might not have been at that NAMM show because the next year NAMM show was also in Atlanta.
Okay.
Or shortly thereafter, there was another Atlanta show. Mm. And I remember seeing Kansas. So we don't know.
It was a hub. Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're down there. Anyways, Kerry's at my booth. He's checking out guitars. We had some conversation, which I don't recall. And... he walks out and just walks the NAMM show because he's down there. The NAMM show's big, and I'm sure, he wants to check out gear because he was also a keyboard player and everything, so he's checking all that gear. So that was cool. I meet Kerry Livgren, had a moment, and, I'm like, my second NAMM show, but, Rockstar checked out my guitars.
Yeah.
So we finished the NAMM show. Walked out of there with a bunch more orders. I don't know the numbers. And go back to Chicago.
So overall, success.
Success, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. And after that, we did start delivering pretty regularly. Mm-hmm. But there was a big hiccup.
What was that?
We're not going to talk about that.
Foreshadowing.
No, we're going to talk about this because this happened first.
Okay.
I'm back in Chicago, and I get the phone rings.
Okay.
Guess who it is?
Was it Kerry Livgren of Kansas?
Kerry Livgren of Kansas. Mm-hmm. And the phone call goes, hey, Dean, it's Kerry from Kansas. I'm like, yeah. He goes, I checked out every guitar at the show, and I like yours the best.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, all the guitars from the booth came back to Chicago.
Yeah.
So he says, I like that, Tobacco Sunburst Z. He probably called it an Explorer. He said, can I get it? I'm like, yeah. And he says, well, I'm leaving for tour, and I need it kind of like right away. So I said, okay. And, I start talking about the price. Mm-hmm. And he says to me, I remember this very clear. He says, my manager says I'm at a stage in my career where I shouldn't have to pay for guitars.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get it, but I'm at a stage in my career where I got to charge for guitars.
Okay. Yeah.
And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll sell it to you for $400.
Okay.
And he said, okay. He says, but I'm leaving for tour, and I kind of need it shipped today. And I'm like, okay, just, put the check in the mail. And obviously I trusted him.
Sure.
And I shipped out the guitar.
That's pretty cool.
And the check showed up a few days. I shouldn't have cashed it.
Just hang on, yeah.
What's $400? Well, at that time, I needed the money.
Yeah.
Which you'll find out more about as the story goes on.
Sure.
So now I've got, anyways, so the check shows up, and Kerry Livergan's got my guitar. Mm-hmm. And that was the first guitar I've ever sold, first Dean guitar.
Yeah.
Because
at the biggest Rockstar at the time that you possibly could have.
It was big.
That's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, and plus he was the songwriter. He was the guy. So now we will talk about the next thing, okay? And then we'll circle back to Kerry, because this leads up to the first time I saw my guitar played on stage.
Okay.
And to this, what I'm about to tell you, to this moment, I don't know why it rolled this way, because I hadn't shipped Sam Ash yet. But at the show, there was this guy named Howie Huberman.
Okay.
Who might be still alive and out there, okay?
Sure.
And maybe I shouldn't, but this is a story.
Here we go.
I got to tell the story. So Howie owned a store called Six String Sales. Mm-hmm. Okay, and they're in Rochester, New York. Now, in those days, DiMarzio had an ad running in all the magazines, which might have just been Guitar Player at the time.
Okay.
But he's got an ad running, and it's a picture of a storefront with the DiMarzio sticker on the door, because everybody had, their door window stickers. Yeah. So it's a DiMarzio sticker, and it's at Six String Sales. So I think this guy's obviously legit, right? Mm-hmm. So he says, I want to buy all the guitars in the booth. So Kerry took one. I don't know. If I do the math, there was 9 guitars.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 10 guitars that he was buying. So the deal is we're taking them back to Chicago, and we're going to ship them.
Okay, so 10 guitars.
Yeah. So in those days, this is so crude, okay, because we've come such a long way. Mm-hmm. In those days, UPS was the only way you shipped.
Yeah.
And UPS had a rule you could only ship 3 packages to one location.
Per day?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you couldn't ship them 10 guitars.
So you're doing batch?
3, 3, 3.
And then 1.
And that's why I'll tell you how I know the math.
Yeah.
We shipped the first 3. Now keep in mind these are going out COD. Okay, there's no credit card stuff going on back in those days. Mm-hmm. So the way you did it is you put a COD tag on the cartons, okay? You put the label on, you put a COD tag on it. That told the driver to collect a check, okay?
Yes.
3 guitars, 3 COD tags, the guy writes 1 check. So in those days, Dean guitars were $450 with a case or something. That was a wholesale. They were $900 at the store. So now the process is the driver collects the check. They staple the COD tags to the check, put it in an envelope at UPS, and it comes back to you.
Okay.
So let's say the first check's $1,200, $1,300, whatever it is. Next day, 3 more guitars. Next day, 3 more guitars. Last day, 1 guitar. So now it takes a couple of weeks to get the money. Mm-hmm. By the time it comes back, you deposit the checks, deposit the check, deposit the check. Checks start bouncing.
That's always good.
So now keep in mind, bootstrapped, I'm really...
You're hurting.
I've got Kerry's $400.
Hey, he came through.
He came through. and Howie Hubbardman's 6-string sales checks are bouncing.
Okay.
Call him up. Hey, Howie, checks bouncing. Oh, Dean, some bullshit bank error story. Well, Howie, I need the money. How soon can you get me the money? I'll get it, Dean. Whatever it was.
For 10 guitars.
Yeah. Now, the other thing you did, when you got a bad check, you put it through again. Okay. And then there was a thing called in-bank collection. We got a lot of bounce checks in our day.
Okay.
Because most music stores are not professional. They're like guitar players that thought they could be businessmen. Mm-hmm. So bounce checks were not rare, and there was certified checks and a whole bunch of other methods.
Gotcha.
Anyways, checks are bouncing. He's being a dick. Not being a dick, but he's just bullshitting me, and I'm not having it. And then I call, and the phone's disconnected.
Jeez.
And I'm like, fuck. You know, I mean, that's when you know you're separated from your money. So I book a flight the next morning to Rochester, New York.
So you're going to go strong arm this guy.
I'm going to get my guitars.
Okay.
I'm like, now I'm a guitar manufacturer. I'm now a repo guy. So. And I take my little
add to your list
and
of
I take my
accolades.
little brother Glenn, who's 14 at the time, along for the ride. Mm-hmm. And I just think I didn't, I'm like, Glenn, you want to go? And I'm like, yeah. So Glenn goes. So we fly to Rochester, New York, get out the airport. In those days, you took a taxi. Mm-hmm. And some taxis were station wagons.
Okay.
So I got to look for a station wagon taxi. Flag one down. You got to talk to the guy. Yeah, I need the station wagon. So we go in the station. I say, take me here. We go to 6-string sales. Show up. And the way the store is, it's like it's kind of big. And there's a guitar store and a record store. And they're like one big store. Like these two guys kind of got together. Okay. And then they have a center, like cash, place to take money. Mm-hmm. But one's clearly the guitar, Howie Hubbardman's side.
Yeah.
And the same counter, okay?
Yeah.
And Howie's phone's not working, but the record store company's working. So I'm talking to these guys. I said, can you get Howie on the phone? They're like, yeah, no problem. So they get Howie on the phone.
Ooh.
He's telling me there's construction on the street, and that's why the phone lines are out.
Yeah, but you're right outside.
Well, there's the phones are like 8 feet apart, Mm-hmm. So I'm like, Howie, I'm taking my guitar. He goes, Dean, I told you I'd pay you. I said, Howie, tell your guys to put the guitars back in the boxes. I'm taking them with. And he got on the phone with his guys, and he said, give Dean the guitars, which was cool because he didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Once something's in your store, it's yours, and you got to go to court to get it back.
Okay.
And that was never going to happen.
Well, you probably scared the shit out of him.
I was,
flying halfway across the country to go get these,
Okay, when I got my first driver's license, I was 111 pounds.
Okay.
Okay, so now it's 4 years later. I don't think
now you're 112 pounds.
I was not a heavy, okay?
Yeah.
Although I did know karate and taekwondo. So anyways, load up them. Now I got to go back to the airport. They loaded up the truck. They had the boxes. Luckily, not one got sold. It had only been like a week or two. No, maybe a little longer because it took time for the checks to clear. None were sold. Probably that's why he couldn't pay for anything because he's maybe drying up. So you got to go back to the airport, and now I got to pay extra luggage. We loaded them all I paid to get them all on a plane.
Yeah.
Fly them back to Chicago, go to the next dealers in line, and ship them back out.
There you go.
So anyways, that was the story.
What an inconvenient mess.
I know.
Yeah.
But everything in my life, just like I said, the first guitar is like, ship. Of course, it's got to be a story.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's all learning.
Right.
And I learned about...
You learned.
About COD and credit checks. And eventually we got big. We had a credit manager.
All right. So that was your short tenure as a repo man. But ultimately, you still had Kerry holding good on his deal. So he bought the guitar from you. Did you ever get to see it played? Like how did that relationship continue?
Actually worked out pretty good.
Okay.
There were some other hiccups because Kerry had a deal with Gibson. He had already signed a deal. Gibson's was always there, you know.
Poaching your guys, yeah.
Well, before,
Yeah.
you know, but he wanted to play my guitars.
Okay.
So it came down to, hey, can Kerry even play my guitars? I end up on the phone with Bud Carr, who's his manager.
Okay.
Great guy, by the way. And like, I'm new in business. I'm like very young, and I'm talking to major Rockstar manager and
Yeah.
stuff. But it turned out, I mean, Kerry says to me, yeah, I talked to my manager, and he said, you know, my deal, I can play whatever I want. So he could play that. Then bottom line is you couldn't do ads.
Okay.
But guess what? We ended up doing, there's Kerry ads out there. So at some point, he left the dark side.
Yeah.
So he came over to me. But so now I'm building guitars in my company, and I'm hearing about this guy in Kansas is playing, you know, there's a buzz because I'm a new guitar company, but the guy in Kansas is playing my guitars on tour.
Okay.
So the tour's coming to Chicago, is Alpine Valley up in Wisconsin, which is like an hour and change away
Great
from
venue,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, great place, outdoor. So Kerry you know, we're talking and stuff, and he invites me to come out to the show, and he says, how many tickets do you want? And
Yeah.
I got to bring everybody and my mother.
Literally your mom, yeah?
My mom.
Yeah.
Because she was a big supporter. Not only that, but there's also the family thing with my brother playing Kansas.
Yeah, and I'm sure you want to flex. Like, look what I've,
Right.
look at what you're doing.
Well, whatever. So I think we had like a row or something, you know, big. Like we had a lot of people there. I don't know, maybe brought out the factory. I don't know. Maybe 10 or 12 seats.
Okay.
So we get invited to the show, go up to Alpine Valley, and there's and the show starts. And like I said, my mother's there, and the guitar sat on the stand the whole show. And it's kind of a thing, like, you know, he's playing his 335 this and this. He also plays keyboards a lot. But, you know, the encore's coming.
Yeah.
Walks off stage, comes back, picks up the Dean Z.
What was the encore song?
I think it was Wayward Son.
Sweet.
And a few, you know, there was a few.
If footage of this exists, we have to find it.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, he lights it up, playing solos, just ripping on this guitar.
Yeah.
And that was
A moment. That's
you know.
so cool.
Yeah. To see your guitar played on stage by a major band.
Yeah, like an iconic American rock song.
Yeah, and
you're 21,
20.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And like I said, there's like guys who go years and dream of getting a rock star.
Yes.
They have these real C-list guys and they try to polish a turd. I got A-list, dude.
That's so cool.
I got lucky.
Yeah.
But he liked the guitar. I think I said that before.
There you go.
Yeah, if you make a
Was
good
that
guitar.
did that one have the red?
The red, yeah, definitely.
Red
had that.
dots?
And I
Okay.
think he still got it.
Yeah.
And you got to know that every time I came out with, Rich, the other guitar player, started playing my guitars.
But didn't he call not too long ago?
Yeah, he wanted a guitar
Well,
built.
because Kerry's, he's still got a Tagliere and some of your current stuff. So
Right.
It's crazy that, all these years later, the Kansas guys still ring you up.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
Well, Kerry, I always kept him current. I mean, it's like, you know me. If somebody did good by me,
Yeah.
I just take care of them for life. And
Yeah.
So every guitar I ever came out with, I sent one to Kerry. So even a Tagliere, even in this company, I just sent it to his house, his studio, his house. But so what I would do is I would like keep them current. So he played an ML. I mean, there's a ton of pictures out there. Kerry lived in like this blue.
Very 70s attire. Yeah.
Well, it was like this Japanese robe or something like that, and he's got an ML strapped around him. He always looked like a wizard on stage back then.
Yeah.
And he had an ML, and then when it came out with the Cadillac, he's got the first Cadillac.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him just posted on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think he's got all his original Dean guitars I made him.
That's super cool.
Yeah. And then the rock stars just kept coming.
Yeah, once you got Kansas.
Well, I'm on the map.
Well, okay, so yeah, I mean, even the image that we used most recently of you at NAMM, like, who else was coming around this time? I saw Nancy Wilson. Like, that would have been right around that time, right?
Shortly thereafter, the cars.
Did they all approach you, or were you kind of like scouting? Or
No, I worked the backstage.
okay.
Yeah.
That's a podcast. You've got some marketing tactics that are legendary.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Between your ads and the way you got artists, we need to talk more about that.
well, we'll talk about a lot of things but I got to tell you, building guitars is this much of what I do. Mm-hmm. Building guitars, I mean, I shouldn't say this out loud, but any asshole could build a guitar.
Well, you think that.
Okay. It's building the brand.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the challenge. Mm-hmm. And as much as I've been a guitar guy all my life, more importantly to me, brand building is like, that was always like my challenge and my biggest skill set and the thing I actually like the most. Mm-hmm. Getting your product from obscurity to a grandiose thing is a challenge.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have a product that you can do it with, but marketing and becoming a brand is
the hype around it and all that.
Is a whole nother skill set, and that's what I enjoyed the most, and that's what I love, and that was the challenge for me. Mm-hmm. So every time a guy's playing my guitar, yeah, that's part of it, but it's really this bigger picture. And we could talk about the Girl in the Water ad.
Yes.
That changed everything.
Yeah.
That was my concept.
I think we need to talk about the Lady in the Water, the Dean girls.
The Girl in the Water ad just was a game changer.
Yeah.
And actually, when I got off the plane and told Zan I've got an idea, mm-hmm. he was pissed.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that. But yeah, he was like, "You're going to kill the company."
So yeah, I mean, between the Lady in the Water ad and I mean, you still got that guitar.
Yeah,
we got to pull that out when we do your advertising.
It's weird because I never kept guitars, and people could buy anything off of it. I always had the intent I'm going to keep this guitar, and then someone would offer me money, and I'm like,
fuck it. Yeah.
Like I told you, my wife when I met her, she like really got on my case for not keeping my memorabilia and stuff. Mm. But after the shoot, we shot that ad. Sherry, the chick in the ad, sat on my lap to O'Hare Airport in a two-seater car.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember what car it was, but I remember the ride. And so she ends up, but somehow the guitar just ended up home, and I kept it. So that was 1980 when I did that ad. So what's today? A lot of years.
44 years?
It's not 54, is it? No, it's 44 years.
I said 44.
Yeah, I'm just hoping it's not 54.
All right, so you sold a guitar to Kerry. You also kind of mentioned that you had, given him some as you were making new models and stuff. But like the funny thing was, he was griping that he wasn't getting a free guitar. And you're griping that you need money and you're a new builder. So with other rock stars, were you selling, or what exactly was the typical transactional procedure?
Well, initially I was selling guitars.
Okay.
And it's weird because they would pay.
Well, you should hope.
Okay. So like Hart, I go see Hart when they were really new. Mm-hmm. Okay, relatively new. And Howard Leese wanted a guitar.
Okay.
I brought back, there's pictures of him with a Cherry Burst Z, which I think, no, he has an ML in the Hard Rock downtown. But yeah, Cherry Burst Z. I sold him that guitar. I go backstage and he's like, "Yeah, I want the guitar." They were cool. I mean, it wasn't hard to get a guy, a rock star, to want that guitar because there was nothing else like it out there.
Yeah.
So literally he tells his manager, I need money, and they get it out of the box office from the receipts. Mm-hmm. So I was like waiting. They're like, "Yeah, we can get it out of the box." And they took the money out of the box office.
Just cash.
Yeah. But another thing I remember, like, I go to this concert. I think I talked about this in a podcast when I got the guy, John McPhee, who ended up in the Doobie Brothers. Mm-hmm. And he was in Clover, which was the band that when
Huey Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, Huey Lewis was a singer and all that stuff.
Right.
So John McPhee, I go backstage to a concert, and there were 3 bands. I know I talked about this, but there's a bigger story to this. There's 3 bands. It was Clover, Gary Wright, who was a keyboard player and had this big hit, Dreamweaver, at the time.
Yeah.
And Dave Mason, who was in a band called Traffic. I think he was like hung with Clapton in that crowd. But now he's like a little bit, he's not in Traffic, he's a solo guy. So this is interesting because I go backstage and I'm working the bands like I always do, and there was only 2 to work because the other guy was a keyboard player. So John McPhee from Clover, he plays the ML, loves it, wants it, came back to the shop and bought one. So he paid for a guitar.
Okay.
The other guy was Dave Mason. And this was a cool moment for me because we're backstage and there's like a Marshall. I think I talked about it. Did I talk about this? Well,
This
either
is
way.
new to me.
Okay. So Dave Mason, he's obviously a great musician and wrote some heavy songs. So he's trying the guitars, like the V, the Z, and the ML. And he's literally got his head up to the speaker and he's trying each guitar. And it was a little loud in there, so that's why I think it was backstage.
Yeah, but still, it's...
Maybe Gary Wright was on stage. But he's listening, and he's going back and forth and back and forth. And he said, I want that one. And he picks the ML.
Okay.
This was the first a guy buying my guitar with his ears.
Yeah.
Because before, everyone's like buying shapes. Oh, I want the V, I want the Explorer. And I didn't really think in terms of one sounds better than the other. Come to find out, the ML did sound better than the other ones. And the theory, or my theory was, because it's a long, thin plank of wood.
Yeah.
And it was very live.
Well, you've
sustained.
replicated long, thin planks of wood.
Yeah, in other models.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was based on the ML. On like, we need a round body guitar that does the same thing.
Vibe, yeah.
But this long, I mean, think of it. You hit a log, it goes thud. You hit a long piece of pine, and it kind of reverberates.
Right.
And the ML had all those features. And the big skinny head, the long body.
Yeah, you're combining a lot of different things. String tension over distance.
And anybody who played an original ML will say they sounded incredible. They sustained forever. But this is my first indication that it could be.
Yeah.
Because he buys one. But for some reason, I don't know what the deal was, but he said, I'm staying at the Ritz-Carlton downtown. And he says, come by my hotel tomorrow. Or the manager said, come by and bring the guitar. So it wasn't like a backstage deal. Now I'm bringing the guitar home. The next day I'm going down to the Ritz. Which, by the way, I'm building a guitar company. I don't have time to dick around,
Yeah.
So I meet his manager, tour manager guy, go downtown, and I'm in the hotel. And in those days, you called up the room from the house phone. And they call up the room, and the guy's like, call me back in 20 minutes.
Okay.
What the fuck am I going to do? So I sit down, I got the guitar in the lobby, and I call back. And jerks me again, gives me some, do this. Go back, and I'm like, it's Dave Mason. I got to get him this guitar. And this goes around like 2-3 times, and I'm like, this is bullshit. So then I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, Dave Mason wants this guitar. If this guy doesn't deliver, or if he fucks it up, it's going to be on him. So I call up the room again, and I said, and he's like, he starts with his bullshit again, call me back. So I said, listen, Dave Mason wants this guitar. Either let me up now or I'm leaving, okay? And Dave Mason's not getting this guitar. It's like, okay, come on up. So I come up. He's in his robe. There's some other dude in the room. And he opens this case, and he's got a taser.
Okay.
And he's pointing the taser at me, fucking with me like he's going to shoot me with the taser. And I just want my money and go.
Yeah.
And he's like fucking around, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know what his game was, but he had this case full of money. And he's like taunting me with the laser. And I'm like, I'm just being cool. Like, I just give me my money so I can leave. You know, I didn't think he was going to shoot me with the taser. Anyways, this went on for like 10, 15 minutes with all this banter and this bullshit. He gave me the cash and I left.
What a dick.
Yeah. So that's my Dave Mason story.
Any other rough rock stars, or was that about it?
I think that was it. You know, rock stars, they used to, you got to know that at concerts, there's some, and I don't know how it is today. I'm sure it's not anything like this, but in the old days, there was so many bands getting ripped off by promoters and stuff like that.
That hasn't changed.
Right. I'm talking about the big acts that, you know.
Even still.
I don't know if Taylor Swift has a manager taking out, you know, $3.4 million in a briefcase, but, or whatever it is. But probably more. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, there was always a dude leaving with a briefcase full of money.
Yeah.
And or the band didn't go on, or the band you know, so they always had a lot of cash. And the band Loverboy, I remember hanging with those guys, and their manager said, you know, we pay everything in cash. And I'm like, why? He said, because when they paid in credit cards, they'd leave and they'd get hit with a bunch of incidentals.
Like at hotels, you mean?
Yeah, hotels. You
Yeah.
broke this, you owe this, blah, blah. And he said we would cash out and we'd be done.
Yeah, and leave the room on fire.
Whatever, but I'm, you know, obviously that was in the early days, and the hotels caught on, and maybe it's because of rock stars that even if, however you pay, you got to leave a credit card.
Yeah, some way to recoup.
And that's where they recoup. Yeah, so
That's cool.
That's the Rockstar story.
All right, so yeah, not a bad deal for your first. I mean, it's your second NAMM show, but still within your first year of production, and you've got an A-list, you know, Rolodex of celebrities buying your stuff. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I got lucky.
Yeah, very lucky.
Yeah.
And they all liked it.
Right place at the right time.
Right place, right time, right shapes.
Right dude.
Right dude.
By the way, you hear that a lot. The guy was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been in the right place at the right time. They just weren't the right person, so they didn't know it.
Yeah.
So
You've been in the right place at the right time a lot.
right.
You got some premonition skills.
Yeah, get arrested.
Get right place, right time. You know, the Nichols, right place, right time.
Right. Okay. So this was cool.
Yeah. I think now is a good time to punch in and let people know that, again, we are a new YouTube channel, new podcast service. So if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Apple Music, to like and follow. If you're on YouTube, ring the bell, subscribe. And a big thing that we want from people also is to comment and review. The comments do help us out a lot. I love hearing about how everyone hates me and how I talk too much. But more importantly, we do fan mail, and that can come via email, that can come via YouTube comment or Facebook comment, because Dean likes to read what people have to say, and that's what we're going to do right now.
Cool.
So if there is a Dean story that you want to hear, just write us, let us know, and we'll talk about it.
Put it in the comments section.
Put it in the comment section.
Okay.
So now we've reached the end of the podcast. This is where we hit up fan mail, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram comments, and we each pick out one, and I read them to Dean, and he answers and responds. So this is...
That's quite a setup, Parker.
Thanks, Dean.
Okay.
So here's the first one from George Jetson, 1923.
Yeah, that's probably the year he was born, George Jetson. George Jetson was pretty old.
I would like to hear the story.
Okay, no, he's probably a cool guy. I'm sorry.
But maybe a million years old. 101 years old, actually. I would like to hear the story on why Dean sold the company.
That's going to be a podcast.
Is that your answer?
Well, yeah. No, I will answer that.
Okay.
I'm not going to answer it verbatim because it's a whole podcast.
Right.
But things got really ugly.
Yeah.
And this was importing Race to the Bottom.
The industry was changing.
The industry had changed. This was Eddie Van Halen, the low-end guitar boom, everything going offshore, Race to the Bottom. It's a whole podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will talk about and the economics of the United States at the time.
Yeah.
Which
so
was
we will dive into that.
Reagan took over, fired the air traffic controllers, were all going offshore.
Yeah.
And I was a USA manufacturer. And I fought it. Mm-hmm. And hindsight, I shouldn't have fought it. I probably should have been the first one overseas and capitalized on the market. But we'll go in. The podcast will go into why I did what. Okay.
Okay.
And one more thing about that. There was a paradigm shift happening in America. Mm-hmm. Everything was going to go offshore. We weren't going to manufacture much anymore. And I had those accountants and people I talked about and lawyers, and they would tell me about recessions and things like that. Nobody really understood paradigm shifts. And that's in a recession, things change. And they change forever.
Yeah.
So you think you're going to come out of it, a recession last a year, as lasted 2. But the recession created this huge offshoring thing, which also was supported by the information age.
Yeah.
This is a real serious answer. But
you better calm down because you're going to wear out the next podcast.
No, but it was caused by the information age, which helped, we could communicate overseas, which we couldn't do earlier. So
the too long didn't read is there's going to be a full podcast on this.
But it was things got really bad and really ugly in the guitar business, and that's when I sold, BC Rich sold, Jackson Charvel sold, Gibson was going broke, and that's when Henry took over. Mm-hmm. Fender got recapitalized by venture cap. The whole industry shook, and I took
You dipped out.
Stage left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, comment number 2. Normally I read these, but I want Dean to read this one.
Oh, I got to read it? Must be about you.
Yeah, it's right in the middle.
Parker's a dick. Oh, no, the one in the middle? I'm paraphrasing, but it says the long-haired guy is annoying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, you would know better than anyone.
You should see him at work. I got to deal with him 8 hours before this.
Yeah.
No, Parker's okay. Parker's okay. We're new at this.
Yeah, we're figuring it out.
But by the way, the last podcast, which would be Jeff Mallard. Johnny Winter's Guitar Tech.
Yeah.
You were flawless.
I think we picked up our stride there.
You were flawless.
Thanks, Dean.
I don't know how we're going to do it without a guest on, because that if we had been podcasting for 5 years, I'd still say we knocked it out of the park.
We better get some more guests.
We need Jeff. We need Jeff in every year.
Yeah, he can be the new honorary.
Right. Okay. Well, this has been fun. I want to say one more thing.
Subscribe, everybody.
Yeah, and if there's stories you want to hear, just chime in the comment section, mostly on YouTube, because that's what we look at a lot. Chime in if there's want to hear, and we'd be happy to talk about it if it makes sense.
Cool.
At which point everyone's going to say, what's going on with Dimebag? What's going on with Dimebag? So, okay, thanks. We will talk about Dimebag.
All right, the end.
Okay, bye-bye.